Next, I'd like to turn to our next panel, which is on infrastructure and operations, following on the airport theme. This will be led by Nancy Young, Chief Sustainability Officer of GEVO and a longtime friend of ATAG. The panel will explore how technology and better operational thinking can play a role in reducing fuel use from the existing fleet. No, that's another panel, but this one's on operations.
Surprise! No, I hope my panelists will come up here right away, please. Join me on the stage. And also, I see 20 minutes on the clock, and we were supposed to have 22, and I'm going to count on those extra 2 minutes. So come on up. So, thank you. Thank you, Haldane. So, no, delighted to be here, and thank you all for joining us. So I had the pleasure back in 2007 in being in the Air Transport Action Group kind of brainstorm session called the Edge of the Box. And there we were like, what the heck are we going to do to get to what we really need to do in carbon and climate? And in that, we said it really takes an ecosystem, right? You have already heard that today and hopefully everywhere. You can't do it alone. And in that, it was everybody in the supply chain, everybody involved in aviation has to work together, and they all have their part to play. You heard earlier today that SAF will be and is going to be the biggest element of meeting these grand and important critical goals for climate. But every piece of the puzzle is critical as well. And I have the pleasure today of moving us on in the dialogue to that infrastructure and operations side of the picture, really the important role that airports play, and we got a good preview there in the last announcements, and really that aerospace innovators play in making this real. So I'm going to take these guys through a speed panel. I'm going to briefly introduce them without bios, and then we're going to start asking questions. So first, to my left, we've got Sven Deckers, Director of Strategic Planning at Dubai Airports. Second, we have Friedrich Jarsvad, Director of Strategy and Innovation, Swedavia, and he just got an award, you heard. Third, Amal Osman, Managing Director, Middle East and North Africa, Collins Aerospace. And last but not least, Jane Boyle, Head of Sustainability at Abu Dhabi Airports. So let's kick off. So in this panel, as we said, we're going to probe technology, operations, infrastructure, and how they play into aviation decarbonization. And as I was noting, Olivier gave us a very good kickoff talking about airport carbon accreditation. So kind of building on that, from your experience, what are some of the operational efficiency measures being deployed at airports to reduce emissions, and how are these efforts getting integrated across the airport community? I'm going to start off with Sven.
Sure. Thank you very much, Nancy. So I think when it comes to the overall topic of environmental sustainability, there's one statistic I have in mind, and it's not the statistic mentioned earlier this morning, which is we're about 1.92% of global carbon footprint. The statistic I have in mind is in 2050 will be 22 to 25% of share of global footprint. And this is, for me, this is what has to guide us. As you know, we're one of the 9 hard-to-abate industries. Many industries have other solutions, and we don't have all the solutions today. So as we heard this morning, so obviously ingredients such as SAF, solar, electrification of ground fleet, retrofit, they're all important ingredients, but with that, we're not going to get there. We know that. So what we do at Dubai Airports, and I'm sure other airports very similarly, we have a list of hundreds of activities, which are all kind of small, minor operational improvements, but they all kind of contribute to the end goal. And with these hundreds of activities, there's hundreds of partnerships. So at the airport, with also the other global companies. And I think just the ones that are for us, I think, really important are, for example, Follow the Greens, which is really trying to save taxi time on ground, because at TXB you have 380s, 777s, and 1 minute of taxi time is if you can reduce that on average, those are huge savings, yeah, compared to retrofit of lights and so on. So we really want to approach it from kind of data-driven and see what are kind of the biggest bangs for the buck we get.
No, excellent start. And I'm going to jump all the way down to the end there to Jane to give her thoughts on this.
Hi, thanks, Nancy. Yeah, so obviously, as an airport, we've got so many stakeholders, you know, so many different operations going on at once, and I think what this creates is so many opportunities. So we're incredibly fortunate in Abu Dhabi, where we have just finished developing a strategy with our aviation cluster partners. So we're working with Etihad Airways and the ground handler as well. And what that has actually done is kind of brought us together in terms of having common goals. Obviously, within an airport, you know, collaboration is the key, regardless of whether we're looking at the local kind of community and environment on the ground or in the air. So as part of our strategy, we've actually developed, it's more than kind of 25 different initiatives and projects that we can all work on together. It's around obviously reducing energy, reducing emissions and similar. And again, similar to Spain, we're looking at trying to build as many partnerships in the community as possible. For us, one of the big focuses is developing a circular economy. And the reason we've selected this as one of our key themes, obviously with the opening of our new terminal building, Terminal A, we have a unique opportunity where we can kind of wipe the slate clean and start again. As part of this, we're mapping out all of our waste streams and finding partners to go along with each one. So it's similar to a kind of matchmaking service, except for waste products. And we're actually transforming it from an operational burden into a potential revenue stream, which also could, you know, potentially feed into, we're looking at biodiesel and maybe in the future SAF as well.
No, excellent. So we were an array of measures, lots of collaboration, data really homing in. Fredrik, could you share with us your thoughts?
Well, yes. First of all, I think we, as airport operators, we need to do our homework first in order to facilitate a fossil-free environment. We have done that within the Swedavia Group and turned fossil-free in our own operations in 2020. By doing a very structured work, inventory of where the carbon emissions come from. And it's kind of easy to do that because it's heating, cooling of buildings, also the vehicles at the airport. All of those stuff, I think most airports already have a grip on. Now, the next step is to work together with the whole ecosystem, as you said. And to be able to do that, you need to share data. So I totally agree with what you've already said. We have launched a program within Swedavia. I know a lot of other airports are doing the same. We call it TAM. It's Total Airport Management, where we're harvesting all the data that we can get and also trying to distribute it to our stakeholders at the airport. Because if you have an efficient airport, you also have the prerequisites to have a fossil-free airport and also to reduce the emissions used at ground level, so to say. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, Amal, so we've got an aerospace innovator. What do you have to bring to this dialogue about the airport efficiency and decarbonization?
I think these were all really great segues. So Collins Aerospace is the leading solution supplier that helps enable many of these efficiencies that we discussed. So exploiting data is essentially one of the things that we can do to realize a lot of these efficiency gains. So looking at solutions like FlightAware under Collins Aerospace, you help with not only optimizing your flight paths, but using real-time data to help with the taxiing and efficiency gained within the airport operations. Another thing that also comes to mind is transitioning into more of a cloud-based infrastructure. This way you can actually start to realize a lot of those energy savings that many of the airports are aspiring to do that. And we have that through the Collins AWS. And we've noticed that many of the airports that have transitioned into cloud-based infrastructure, they've gained significant, notable and tangible savings from an energy infrastructure perspective.
Well, that's a really good kickoff, actually, and now I get this great opportunity to have us drill down in our speed panel as much as you can in the speed. So I'm going to ask a question of each of you, all kind of homing in on some of these key points. And I'm going to start with Frederick. You know, and actually, we've all been to airports, right? So we know where we go to our gate, and we know where we buy our things and all of this. But what we're doing is peeling back and seeing things that are way behind the scenes. And so Swedavia is participating in the EU's Single European Sky Air Traffic Management Research, CESAR 3 joint undertaking. Yes. A lot of words there. But why, and that's air traffic management, right? So why is air traffic management and its digital transformation important to Swedavia?
Yeah, you can wonder why Swedavia is participating in a huge program within the EU that is focused mainly on the airspace. But actually, what you see is when you solve the bottlenecks in the airspace, the bottlenecks move to the airports. So we need to cooperate with all stakeholders, air traffic management services, ground handlers, and so forth, in order to get a good operation, an efficient operation. Now, Swedavia, we actually participated in this huge EU project or program, actually, CESAR, since the get-go. First of all, we had small parts, and then eventually it's been bigger and bigger. What we have especially participated in is to facilitate the possibility of curved approaches into our airports, and especially Stockholm Arlanda Airport. Now, at first, this was not due to climate care. It was actually a noise abatement procedures that was the main driver for us to participate in those types of projects. But as the projects went along, we could also see that by introducing curved approaches into these airports, we could actually reduce the trajectories for the aircrafts into the airports as well, thereby reducing fuel consumption. And reducing fuel consumption, I mean, that's good, not only for the airlines because they save a lot of money, but it's also very good for the environment. So that's a win-win situation. I think that's the approach you should always take when you're working on how to reduce your carbon emissions. You should look and see both in all measures when it comes to sustainability, both environmental, economical, and also social parts of it. And that's an excellent example, I think, what you can do in order to reduce emissions, working together with the whole network, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. Totally enabling, not just the airport itself, but really within your own ecosystem and beyond, right? So Amal, let's pick up on that. I mean, the work that Collins does, you've got an array of technologies. What types of technologies are you advancing to help airlines' operations reach targets of like 5 to 10% near-term operational efficiency?
Absolutely. It's never a dull day at Collins. So I will say, definitely touching back on the utilization of data. We have something called the connected ecosystem, which not only connects the aircraft, the airlines, and the ground operations, but we look at how do we make this the most efficient experience for all of our stakeholders. Mm-hmm. So we do have solutions such as the trajectory-based operations, which looks at how do we get an aircraft from point A to point B in the most efficient and the most fastest way possible, and learning from that, leveraging our historical data. But also from an aircraft and an airline perspective, we are incorporating a lot of autonomous innovations that help alleviate a lot of the pilot fatigue. But it also provides an opportunity to have a collective collaboration with looking at the data, connecting all of the ecosystem to make smarter and more sustainable decisions. So bringing everybody together in this ecosystem is where we thrive.
Excellent. And it really is almost, it's a baton pass, but it's not. It's a very integrated system. So Jane, you all just had a big opening of your new iconic Terminal A, and you have a huge system. Uh-huh. How did sustainability and decarbonization play into that development, and how do you keep that going and expand it?
So obviously that was like a really major element within our new Terminal A. It had been certified to ESTADAMA, which is the Abu Dhabi Green Building Regulations, to 3 perils. So I think it's like one of the biggest green building certified buildings in the world. So it was a really major part of the design ethos, and something that we're really keen to do is to ensure that that continues in the operational stage of the building. So even though the building only kind of became 100% operational on the 15th of December, we already have an energy management strategy for the building. Looking at, it's a lot to do with the kind of major systems in the building, but then how can we use technology in order to assist us? Obviously, everyone's been talking about data and what a key part data plays. And I think within an airport, we have like so much data that we can use. So we've actually been doing quite a lot of work with our data team to find out what are those like specific KPIs and metrics that as an airport can actually assist us in achieving our sustainability goals. So we're looking at everything from like AI, machine learning, we've got this smart building. How do we maximize it? How do we make it really work for us? And for anyone that's visited the terminal building, you'll see it's this aesthetically beautiful building, but as with many airport terminals, they're not often, designed specifically with energy efficiency in mind. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're in the Middle East as well, obviously there's a huge cooling load on the building. So we need to become really creative. What can we do in order to make it as efficient as possible using the tools we have? And I think it's an amazing opportunity. Everyone's on board. And hopefully, I think within the first 12 months of operating, we should have managed to make, I would say, significant leaps forward in terms of energy efficiency.
It sounds like sort of an everything, everywhere, all at once challenge
Pretty
that
much.
you have, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, let's do a little drill down too with Sven. I mean, you guys are on the hot seat a little bit. The Dubai International Airport, main gateway for COP28, and a number of other high-profile global events with a sustainability focus, really. So what role does the airport play in serving sort of as a sustainability gateway ambassador for this?
Yeah. As you said, everything all at once. That was easy. But I think, yeah, indeed, as the largest international airport in the world, we don't just want to announce a net zero target, see what we can do, and just top it up with offset. We want to go beyond that, and the reason is very simple, because we can't do it alone. Even as such a big airport as we run, we know we have to work together. And I think the one positive around environment sustainability, if you look at competition, as airports, we love to compete on guest experience, on attracting passengers, attracting the best talent, being a cost leader. But when it comes to this topic, the only competition is really against time. All of us is a race against the clock, as I can see here below also. And that's why, we see those are all to be an extremely active participant in these global think tanks, such as, for example, Airports of Tomorrow, World Economic Forum. ATAC has a lot of initiatives, so we really want to kind of bring our voice, bring our data, bring the transparency, so we can bring airports together, we can bring scientists together, to kind of jointly learn and implement what is there. So that's really how we see our role on that level, but also on the level of even the smallest concessionaires at DXB. We run workshops with them to see how we segregate waste, how we can improve there. So it's, as you said, everything all at once.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of us think of the airports as sort of a monolithic building that we go to, a necessary gateway, but there's so much more interconnectivity and global action, even by what an individual airport or airport suite. Recognizing that we're forced to be a speed panel, and we could have talked for all day, and we will, happily do that later if you'd like. But just a quick closing question to each of you. I mean, here we are, COP28. You've got negotiators here, other stakeholders, all keenly interested in solving the climate problem. So if you have your sort of 30 to 45-second answer, what is the type of message you would like to leave them with your experience coming from your role? And I'm just going to go down the line directly, so we'll start with Sven.
Keep your eyes open. Very simple. I think if you look at the graphs that were shown this morning, these are all projections, trajectories with what we know today. But if you look around on the expo side here over the past few days and next few days, just look at the amount of innovation that we see, and that's all thanks, I think, to globally the R&D funds that have been made available for this. So I'm very confident new technologies that we don't know today will come on the market. And what it gives me also a lot of confidence is when I go to dinner parties and cocktail parties these days, the number of private equity investors that are roaming around and spotting that gives me also confidence, because with new technologies, again, we know pricing points will continue to come down, and a lot of people are willing to invest, I think also thanks to mandates. We know the race is on, and it seems like most of these actors who are there for the solution are coming together, not only at panels, but also at cocktail parties.
Thank you. Well, Frederick, your last shot.
Okay. Well, first of all, we need to believe that this is possible, and it is possible to do this. And within the aviation business, we already have a lot of the answers of how to do it. Now we just need to do it step by step. And also we need to trust that new technology will come into to matter as well. When we set out our goal in 2010 to be fossil-free by 2020, we didn't know exactly how to do it. But we did have a vision and a target, and we worked it, and we did it in a structured manner. And I think that's how you solve these types of problems as well.
Amal?
To keep this succinct, since we're over time.
I don't think we're over time. Okay. I think they took our 2 minutes.
Okay, great. So essentially really taking advantage of the existing technologies on how we can exploit data that's out there to improve our efficiencies is certainly an area. But as this team and as the world's here currently, looking at and advocating for harmonization of our air traffic management policies, as you see the growth in passengers, as you see the growth in airports, we have a unique opportunity on harmonizing on such a bedrock of an area where we can affect change, and putting a lot of those digital solutions and digital infrastructures in place. Aligning on those will start to materialize not only the short-term improvements that we've seen, but a longer term and a more sustainable view of how we look at airports in the future.
Right on. Jane?
So I think it looks like we've run out of time now, so I'll keep mine really short. Yeah, so I think just echoing what everyone else has said, it's all about collaborating, working together, also being accountable as well, whether that's from data, which is something we're really focusing on, improving our data, building a strong foundation, but then actually being transparent about it, sharing it with our stakeholders so then they get input as well. So just, I guess, making everyone aware this is a part you have to play, and having like a really clear pathway to get there. And it's amazing coming to something like COP28. I've been to one COP before, which was COP26, and it was like a fraction of the size of this. You know, obviously, it's really exciting to see so many people interested and so many people on board as well.
Yeah, no, thank you all. And it's really, as I said at the beginning, an ecosystem. I think you saw that, but it's a very active and innovative ecosystem. So please help me thank the panelists for their great contribution.